It's just 3 days to Malaysia's 15th general election. Campaigning is in full swing across the country, with tough battles expected for ballots. And in the midst of all that action is CNA's Lok Wei Su, now standing by in the capital, Kuala Lumpur. Wei Su, it's over to you.
And thank you, Dawn. Like any electorate, Malaysians look for accountability, stability and opportunity from their government. But needs may differ for rural heartland states such as Kelantan and Terengganu. Malaysian Islamic Party, that's PAS, is a long-time incumbent, but is coming up against fierce competition from UMNO-led Barisan Nasional. And for more, CNA's Saiful Bara Ismail joins us live from Kuala Terengganu. Saiful, how serious is the challenge that Barisan Nasional is posing to PAS in Terengganu as well as Kelantan?
Well, Barisan Nasional is a serious challenger to PAS in these two East Coast states of Malaysia. We do know that the Islamic Party PAS has a dominant presence in Terengganu and Kelantan. But if you look at the previous election, the only party that was able to take away seats from PAS in Terengganu and Kelantan is UMNO, which is a Malay-based component party of Barisan Nasional. In 2018, BN won 2 out of the 8 parliamentary seats in Terengganu, and in neighbouring Kelantan, BN managed to snatch 5 out of the 14 parliamentary seats there. So even though there are multi-cornered fights in all of the parliamentary seats in Terengganu and Kelantan in this election, all eyes will be either on UMNO or PAS. There are also parties from Pakatan Harapan and Gerakan Tanah Air who are in the fray, but they are unlikely to make huge inroads into these two states. Now, what is also interesting to observe is that with just a few days left to campaign, we have yet to see top UMNO leaders visiting Terengganu and Kelantan. For example, Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob has not visited Terengganu or Kelantan to give support to the Barisan Nasional candidates. Mr. Ismail has spent more time campaigning in his Bera constituency rather than leaving his election base to campaign with his UMNO allies. But we will see. There are a few more days left before polling day. Mr. Ismail might just decide to visit Terengganu and Kelantan.
Well, thanks for that, Saiful. CNA's Saiful Bara Ismail reporting live to us there from Kuala Terengganu. Our PAS will be a key part of discussions when it comes to building alliances after the election to form a government. CNA's Glenda Chong looks at the political landscape in Malaysia.
Malaysia has a vibrant and busy political scene, with a number of parties and coalitions jostling for power. The oldest coalition is Barisan Nasional, and it was founded in its current form in 1973 as a pact between right-wing and centrist parties. It occupied 42 seats in the Dewan Rakyat. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi serves as the current chair. He's also the president of the ruling party, United Malaysian National Organisation, UMNO for short, whose vice president, Ismail Sabri Yaakob, is Malaysia's caretaker prime minister. In the coalition, the Malaysian Chinese Association representing Chinese, the Malaysian Indian Congress as the voice of the Indian community, and Parti Bersatu Rakyat Sabah looking out for Sabahan interests. BN dominated for decades, but it suffered a major blow in the 2018 election, losing its grip of parliament to the Pakatan Harapan coalition. Former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad took charge, but the PH government only lasted 22 months at federal level. It's currently led by Anwar Ibrahim. And Pakatan Harapan is the opposition despite having the most number of seats in the Dewan Rakyat. The PH coalition is made up of Parti Keadilan Rakyat or PKR, Democratic Action Party, DAP, the National Trust Party or Amanah, and the United Progressive Kinabalu organisation. The Malaysian United Indigenous Party, or Bersatu, was also part of the coalition until the 2020 political power struggle that splintered PH and saw Mr. Mahathir resign as Prime Minister. Now, it also gave birth to the country's third coalition, the Perikatan Nasional. PN held 47 seats in the Dewan Rakyat at the time of Parliament's dissolution. Muhyiddin Yassin is in charge, and he also leads Bersatu. Also in the coalition, the Malaysian Islamic Party or PAS and other parties. Mr. Muhyiddin became Prime Minister in March 2020. He was forced to resign 18 months later when BN pulled its support. That paved the way for UMNO's Ismail Sabri to take over, returning BN to power. Gerakan Tanah Air is the newest coalition formed last August by Dr. Mahathir, and it brings together Malay political parties. It holds 4 seats in parliament. It was unable to register as a coalition in time for this election, so is running under Dr. Mahathir's Pejuang Party banner. So, a dizzying array of choices for Malaysians to choose from when they head to the polls on Saturday.
The fight for the Malay vote is crucial as this group accounts for more than 60% of the electorate. There are now several coalitions with Malay-wide representation vying for the valuable vote bank. As Afifa Arifin finds out, the split in Malay votes will mean the race is wide open, with no coalition likely to win a simple majority.
Wan Mahani runs a small food stall at a night market in Lenggong, Perak. The 30-year-old is a second-time voter. She hasn't decided which candidate she will pick at the ballot box, but she says it will have to be a Malay, as the Malays make up the majority of residents in her area.
Kalau ikutkan saya lebih suka Melayu. Okey, sebab kita tahu kaum majoriti dalam satu tempat adalah Melayu. Kalau kita tengok pun contoh tempat-tempat yang majoriti dia adalah Chinese ataupun India, dia akan pilih dia punya ni lah.
It's a perennial question that frames every election here in Malaysia. Who will win the support of the Malays, who make up more than 2/3 of the total electorate? The fight for their votes has been intensified in this general elections, with the presence of multiple Malay-based parties entering the fray. In August, former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad announced the formation of Gerakan Tanah Air, a Malay-centric coalition that wants to champion the rights of the Malays. For the 97-year-old who is defending his Langkawi seat, identity politics still remains relevant.
The main adversary is UMNO. UMNO is a Malay party. If you have a multiracial party, it will never be able to beat UMNO. Most of them are still thinking about race. So we have to respond to the attitude of the people.
For the sake of Malay political power, will voters pick Barisan Nasional, which they forsook in the last general elections in 2018? Will they now go with Perikatan Nasional, comprising Bersatu and Islamic Party PAS? Or would they give newcomers Gerakan Tanah Air a chance to uphold Malay rights? Understandably, all sides are concerned that the votes will be split.
Well, certainly the emergence of many new Malay parties certainly will fragmentize the Malay electorate further, and each of these parties are centered around very strong and long-standing personalities. Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, Tun Dr. Mahathir, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, and other individuals that are coming into the field and offering themselves, and around them they're trying to form coalitions.
Nearly 60% of Parliament's 222 seats have Malay Muslims as their majority demographic. In the minds of Malay voters in rural heartlands is the issue of Malay supremacy, especially on privileges surrounding race, religion and royalty. Observers say the Malays will support candidates and parties who are seen as legitimate representatives of their community.
At the end of the day, the conservative Malays who make up the bulk of the electorate in Malaysia, their sort of automatic fallback party is still UMNO. If some of them, for whatever reason, dislike UMNO, then they might go to, for example, PAS. But I think one thing is for sure, they would not vote for Pakatan Harapan component parties, because I think the less than 2 years of Pakatan rule have demonstrated to the conservative Malays that some of their very much treasured positions and privileges, at least in their mind, were threatened.
With Malay votes split, observers believe that Chinese and Indian voters, who account for nearly 30%, can make a huge difference in the outcome of the election. Afifa Arifin, CNA, Kuala Lumpur.
And for more analysis, Dr. Lau Zhewei joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. He's an assistant professor at the Department of Political Science at International Islamic University, Malaysia. But Dr. Lau, we just heard Dr. Mahathir saying that UMNO is a Malay-based party. If you have a multiracial party, you will never be able to beat UMNO. This kind of mindset, do you see it having anything to do with the fact that no party or coalition is able to have that kind of standout performance so it can score a large majority in an election and therefore be able to stand alone in government without depending on coalitions?
I'm not surprised when Mahathir comes with such statement. His narrative for the years will be quite similar from time to time. So at the end of the day, Malaysian politics still rely a lot on ethnicity, on religion, and also on diversity. It sounds to be contradict, but basically it's about both together. What I mean by both together, meaning you need to be able to gain at least some votes from the Malay community. But yet at the same time, if you were to say that, oh, why not we focus only on the Malay community since they are the majority? No, you wouldn't have enough votes to win you enough seats to form the federal government. That's why I'm saying that you need two elements together. Number one, the majority community support. Number two, the minority community support as well. That's how it comes about to coalition party in Malaysia. The only thing that I can think of where a single component party that can stand out, win on their own, was in 2004 for UMNO. They managed to win 110 out of 219 seats. That only happened once, and that is a huge tsunami, huge favor for Barisan Nasional.
But you're saying even so, UMNO, even though it could have gone alone, it chose not to.
Yes. The reason is two. Number one, let's look at the electoral system itself. Who should they partner with? Should they go alone or should they partner with somebody? If there's no electoral pact, meaning they're going to go on their own, MCA go on their own, MIC go on their own, they're going to split the vote for that. With the splitting of votes, it will be making it very hard for UMNO.
I suppose the thing is, you mentioned diversity, but in fact it's a very artificial, created diversity. So instead of saying, I will come up with policies that benefit anyone, whatever their race, you have to artificially insert the Malaysian Chinese Association, Malaysian Indian Congress, and not just UMNO, Pakatan Harapan, you could say, although openly multicultural, multiracial and colourblind, it balances DAP with PKR.
I like the questions. That was the question posed by my PhD supervisor to me as well. If you're talking about non-ethnicity, you should be blanketly non-ethnicity. Everything go by meritocracy and so on. But no, Malaysian case is interesting. Even though you're saying that non-ethnicity or you don't want to involve religious or any identity elements, but yet you need to make sure that the output itself is diverse enough. For example, you say that we are doing scholarship by meritocracy. You need to make sure that those who manage to get a scholarship due to meritocracy, they themselves are diverse. You have Malay, Chinese, Indian in it.
How do you guarantee that?
Yes, that is the difficult part in Malaysia. That will be difficult in Malaysia. That's why whenever we talk about meritocracy, we do implement it, but it wouldn't be perfectly version of meritocracy. Because at the end of the day, non-ethnicity means you must have diversity in there. I give a very simple example. Bersih, all this while, the demonstration, the movement for free and fair elections, they never talk about identity politics and so on. So that's their propaganda from the beginning until today. But there was one time where PAS came out from the opposition coalitions. So the whole demonstrations turns out to be you have more Chinese demonstrators compared to Malay. And it turns out to be Chinese Bersih rather than the conventional Bersih. So it shows that if you talk about non-ethnicity, you still need to make sure that you have diversity within the non-ethnicity.
All right, let's move on now. Picking up from there, we're looking at the new deputy president for Pakatan Harapan, PKR rather. So Mr. Rafizi Ramli has come out very openly to say he will not embrace coalition for coalition's sake, no longer the big tent approach. Given that he's quite a crucial figure, do you see PKR, Pakatan Harapan, moving away from coalitions and building itself up so that it stands alone on its own policy?
Not really. What he's trying to say is we still remember with Pakatan Harapan, the conventional party, which is PKR, DAP and Amanah. We can include a little bit here and there, but not combining with any other party for the sake of combining. Meaning we couldn't work with Barisan Nasional, they couldn't work with Perikatan Nasional. Unless due to practical reasons.
Okay, but pardon me, we're running short of time, so I have to ask you this question. Given that no coalition, let alone party, will win that standalone big majority, you're going to get PN, PH, BN about the same, or a little bit less more than each other. How do you see them pairing up? Who's going to hitch which wagon to which horse?
That will be the interesting questions. From my observation, I see it's quite hard for Pakatan Harapan to work with any of them. If you observe carefully between these three coalitions, their supporter base are slightly different. For Barisan Nasional and Perikatan Nasional, their supporter base, they are more loyal towards the party leadership. They are more willing to listen to the party leadership. They are more willing to compromise or leave the freedom to the party leadership to decide. But for Pakatan Harapan supporters, it's totally the different case. They will demand what they want. Yes, I elect you, but make sure you do things that I want. So that will be a problem for them to simply combine with any other party, component party, or any other coalitions. So from that question, I would say that the higher chances of Barisan Nasional and Perikatan Nasional to work together, maybe under the name of Malay Unity or Muslim Unity, somewhere like that.
Muafakat Nasional
Muafakat Nasional or
reignited
around that line, rather than to work with Pakatan Harapan, yes.
All right, thanks so much indeed, Dr.
No
Lau
problem.
Zhiwei from the International Islamic University, Malaysia.